Unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as drones, are the latest invention of man to get him into the sky. While originally restricted to military capabilities, for dropping bombs and the like, there are more civilians now interested in operating drones in a commercial and recreational capacity. The environmental community is getting in on the ground floor in terms of their use for keeping an eye on the marine environment.
We've realized that there's interest in using drone for several work as it relates to conservation, mapping, research, education, and outreach. And so we felt it important to gather some stakeholders to discuss some basic requirements and to discuss long-term planning for improving drone management and use in the sector. For us at Coastal Zone, we're using it as a part of our activities to collect data, to determine a baseline of the status of our coastal planning regions as it relates to use of our coastal resources, whether areas are covered with mangroves, if it's developed. It's being used in that light to develop a baseline of the use of the coastal zone, and it's also applicable in use of looking at disaster risk management, looking at damage assessments, and other planning initiatives.
Visiting Professor of Geographic Information Systems at one of the partners in today's conference, University of Central Florida, Dr. Timothy Hawthorne, outlines some of the advantages drone imagery provides over outdated satellite imagery.
Satellite imagery is often very outdated, especially as you get away from places like Belize City that are more populated. So once you get out to some of the smaller islands, the imagery is very old, some cases 10 to 15 years old, so that's challenging for proper analysis. The second issue is the resolution or the clarity of the image. Most satellite imagery, the resolution is so poor that you can't see a lot of the finer details that you might need for mapping analyses. So the drone imagery provides sub-meter accuracy that allows you to see the detail necessary to map building structure, to map mangrove loss, and to map dock vulnerability in the case of a natural disaster as well.
But even before thinking of using a drone, if you've got one, it needs to be registered with the Department of Civil Aviation. While legislation and a licensing system are being developed, Chief Operations Officer Nigel Carter provided some standing guidelines.
There is an obligation for any person that wants to import a drone into Belize to get that drone registered. The registration process is a simple process. You come in, you provide us with a letter of intent as well as the specifics of the drone. If you provide us with that information with sufficient time, we should be able to give you an authorization even before the drone is imported into the country now. The absolute limit that we are authorizing is 400 feet. In certain areas, that is less. For instance, if you're operating within a more densely populated area, there are certain height restrictions. We'd allow you to go up to 100 feet, maybe 200 feet, based on specifically where you are. There are specific no-fly areas. Those are South San Pedro, Key Cocker, Placencia, and Belize City as well.
And in addition to cooperating with authorities, Dr. Hawthorne advises that you keep your eye in the sky and not on the ground.
You want to be focused when you're using a drone, focus on flying the drone, not talking to your friends, not engaging with a larger crowd, but really focusing on the operation, because as a pilot, you have a huge responsibility for not only your aircraft as a small drone, but also for the communities that you're flying above as well.
Aaron Humes reporting for News 5.